The San Angelo Chamber of Commerce presents Meet and Greet with host Walt Koenig, President and CEO, with special guest Tom Greene County Judge write-in candidate Gary Jenkins. And now, let's join the broadcast.
Once again, I welcome you all on behalf of the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce. The format for this evening is going to be relatively simple. I have a list of 10 questions which were developed in conjunction with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee, specifically for use during this program this evening. And these questions will allow us and our membership to get to know you better and know how you're viewing the potential service as Tom Greene County Judge. So it's an awesome opportunity for us. I always say the Chamber's politically neutral, but we certainly support the process. We want to make sure that we get everybody out and voting, and we want to make sure that all of our membership in the community at large has all the information they need to make informed decisions as voters. And that's why it's our privilege at the Chamber of Commerce to hold these candidates forums to give our membership in the community at large the opportunity to get to know the candidates so that they can be informed in terms of how they vote so that they make their vote count to the greatest degree possible. Once again, I want to thank Reverend Jenkins for running. As I said before, we can't have a democracy if we don't have choices, and he's certainly giving us a great choice this evening. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and as I said before, I've got 10 questions, and I'm going to start easy. I'm going to get a little harder as we go along.
Oh boy.
But there are certainly no gotchas here, and there's no challenges here. So I'm going to start off with the first question. What is motivating you to seek election to the county judge position of Tom Greene County?
The desire to serve the community in which I live. I've always been in service to all of my adult life. I've been in service to our nation, and I'm doing that currently as a San Angelo police chaplain and chaplain with Shannon Hospital. I'm a hospice chaplain with Angels Care Hospice. We're always looking for ways to serve our community because I think we need to have a servant's heart to show compassion for people in our communities. And at the same time, we also need to be aware of what's happening around us and what the needs of the various communities within Tom Greene County are. So seeing those needs and going to the commissioner's court every week, speaking with Judge Floyd and the other commissioners, I got to learn a lot about our county, and I believe that I can take the wealth of experience that I've accumulated from federal government, state government, and in city, local government. I can bring that experience to Tom Greene County as your next judge.
Well, thank you very much. Second question starts with a statement, now go to a question. Running for office is an incredible opportunity to learn about our community. What have you learned over the time you've been running, and what surprises you most in what you've learned through running for a county judge?
I've learned that in every different community, whether it's Cristobal or Wall or Knickerbocker, every community has a certain issue facing them. I've learned by traveling to each community what their concerns are. Cristobal, it's water. They need to have a better system in place so that the people can get the water service that they need. In Water Valley, I met with the volunteer firefighters, and they explained something to me that's near and dear to my heart. They go out without being paid. They go out to rescue people in traffic accidents. Some people were trapped in cars and they needed to be extricated from the cars. And there's a device called the Jaws of Life. That device costs approximately $25,000. The Water Valley Volunteer Fire Department raised $11,000 toward that device. And they need a little boost, a little help to acquire that Jaws of Life. And so I went to the Commissioner's Court and requested that this item be placed on the agenda, not only for Water Valley, but for all of our volunteer fire departments throughout the county. Because if somebody's hurt in an accident and saving their lives means extricating them out of a car quickly, that device will do the job. And we cannot afford to let our public safety officials fail to have the equipment they need to help save lives. So I'm a stickler about making sure that kind of equipment is given.
Excellent. Anything surprise you in all your travels and all your door knocking and all your discussions and all the meetings and forums you've been to?
Oh yeah, some people quite surprised, didn't know that I was running. and it's kind of funny, Walt. History, if you know the history of Tom Green County, which I studied it, this county was named after a Confederate general. And here I am, a person of color. I'm both African and Native American of heritage. And to have a person of color run in a campaign like this, I mean, that's making history. So, and we attribute that to how times have changed. People have opened up, and people are becoming more and more, agreeable with the way the changes are taking place. So that surprised me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the job itself.
Okay.
And it's a challenging job. A lot of people don't understand that the county judge is really more of the CEO of the county. While the judge title connotes black robes and a bench and deliberating over proceedings, which is part of the job, really the bulk of the job is running the county. And my question is as follows. There's over 20 elected officials at the county level. This surprised me. This is one of the things that surprised me in my
27 to be exact.
27 to be exact. As county judge, you are effectively CEO of the county.
That's correct.
And my question is how would you bring together this vast array of interest groups, constituencies, and individuals into an effective force?
Okay, first of all, you have to find a common denominator. I'm a person that believes in bringing people together. The nation is moving in the wrong direction. And it all starts at the local level. We've got to get people to come together. Now, I know we all don't agree on every single topic the same way. That's okay. In America, we have freedom of thought, freedom of differences of opinion, but we're still Americans, and we're still, in this case, citizens of Tom Green County. So rather than pit one group against another group just because of political views, I believe that let's look at the issues. People in Cristobal don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican if they can get the water they need. You see what I'm saying? I'm looking at the issues. If we had an emergency in Tom Green County like we had a couple of years ago when the tornado hit, when those folks, the people whose homes were damaged, they didn't give a rat's tail if a person was black or white, rich or poor, old or young, or Democrat or Republican. If help came to give the assistance that those people needed, which it did, I think that's more important than looking at, well, whether are we red or are we blue and all of that. And so I have a wealth of experience dealing with emergency situations, having worked with both Homeland Security, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and with FEMA. I'm a graduate of the Emergency Management Institute. That's the institute Homeland Security trains all of their emergency operations personnel and their managers. And so after that, I immediately was dispatched with a crew to Alabama, to Florida, to Illinois. We've dealt with flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, and even an earthquake. And when people's homes are damaged and people lose either loved ones or they lose everything they worked hard for all their lives, that's not a time to become a political pundit. It's a time to say, hey, I don't care who you are. What can I do to help you? That's where I'm coming from. And I will bring that experience to Tom Green County. Because the judge, if we had a disaster in Tom Green County, the judge would act as a liaison to Governor Abbott, which in turn here's the process for declaring an emergency. The governor has to make an emergency declaration and request to the president. The president then sends a FEMA team to make an assessment, which that's what I used to do. We would make an assessment of the damage, loss of life, if any, and what is needed to mitigate further damage in a disaster. We send that report to the federal coordinating officer. He in turn sends it to the president. The president makes a decision whether or not he's going to send FEMA personnel to that area, and how much are we going to spend in this disaster. That includes coordinating, and this is what Homeland Security is really good at now. All of the agencies fit under that umbrella. And so whether it's Secret Service, whether it's the FBI, whether it's HUD, Small Business Administration, all of the federal agencies that are needed to help a community bounce back or recover from a disaster, they're pulled in along with what's called NGOs, non-government organizations, such as the Red Cross, Salvation Army, etc. So all of them come together under the command center, so to speak. And you probably have seen some of this yourself being in government. That's what we've done. I would bring that experience to Tom Green County as the next judge.
Very good. Thank you very much. A related question, but one that's kind of near and dear to my heart. As county judge, you will have to really effectively engage with a wide range of organizations, including the city, the ISDs, Chamber of Commerce, ASU, Goodfellow Air Force Base, and many others. How will you effectively engage with all of these various organizations?
First of all, you have to have a plan, an economic development plan. You also have to have a partnership. Now, when I was at Goodfellow Air Force Base, and I know that my friend Pastor Pope might be aware of this too, we had what's called a P4 agreement. And that's a memorandum of understanding. We put that together in the Public Affairs Office, meeting with the base commander, the mayor, Judge Floyd, some other representatives from both Representative Drew Darby's office, Senator Charles Perry's office, as well as representatives from the federal government. You need to network with different agencies and different people. No one candidate can do anything without working together with other organizations and entities. As I said, there are 27 other elected offices in Tom Green County. In addition to that, you have to go outside of Tom Green County because some of the things that we need to do calls for legislative action. If you don't have a rapport with the state legislature, with the governor's office, those things will cause you to be ineffective. And so in order to be effective as a judge, you need to operate with these other organizations, build those relationships, learn how to trust within each other, find out what their needs are, and we in turn explain what our needs are. And we work together. We have a coalition of county governments right now and they do that in effect.
A big part of the county judge role is one of establishing and overseeing the budget.
Yes. We went together, I spent 2 days with her. We went line by line over the items on the county budget. And I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but we do have a surplus. That's an indicator to me that, one, we spent wisely, and two, we can possibly provide property tax relief for the residents of Tom Green County. I'm speaking homeowners in particular. One of my pet peeves is how our local property taxes are collected. Now, I've been in several different states and watched how this is done in those states. One of the things that I would recommend, it calls for legislative action. I mean, it's nothing we can do in Tom Green County. But again, those partnerships I was talking about earlier, using that influence, that networking capability to speak with, whether it's whoever in the legislature. Let's introduce a bill that says if a person completes payment of their mortgage, why are we still paying taxes on the property? We need to find a way to create funding so that the roads, bridge repair, all of those things are taken care of, and that we can still operate the county effectively, but not put an extra burden on taxpayers, especially the elderly who are on fixed incomes and people who really need a little relief. And so as Tom Green County Judge, I would act as an advocate to keep our taxes lower. I would act as an advocate to find alternative ways of collecting revenue, to take the pressure off of our homeowners. You can't keep saying to homeowners and property taxpayers, we need more money, so we're going to raise the assessment value of your home. That doesn't make sense. What you need to do is create a stronger economic development program. We need to talk to developers. We need to talk to business entities. We need to talk with the city economic development. We need to talk to your economic development at the chamber. I've seen these partnerships take place where urban development, what was once an eyesore, is now a beautiful area in certain cities. Look at San Antonio, the Riverwalk. The Riverwalk was a disaster before they began to revamp that and turn it into a national, if not worldly, tourist place. We could do that. We got the Concho River right here. There are ways to develop this area. I've looked at it. I love economic development, by the way.
Well, we're going to have some questions on that.
Oh, okay. Oh, did I jump the gun?
Chamber of Commerce is not going to have a forum without economic development.
I didn't think so.
We're going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
You touched on something in your previous answer, which I'd like to follow up on. That is sort of non-tax revenue sources and other ways to build revenue without putting burden on the taxpayer. So I'd like to ask you a little bit of a detailed question about how we could perhaps do that. Federal and other grants, including ARPA, have been and are a great way to expand county revenue and take some of the burden off the taxpayers. Do you see grants as having an important place in the funding of the county? And if so, what do you see your role or the roles of the Commissioner's Court for the acquisition or implementation of various grants?
We have a staffer whose sole responsibility is to do research on whether it's funds from ARPA or whether it's from HUD or wherever. We need to have someone who is a specialist and who's really good at knowing how to track down and apply for and successfully obtain grants from the federal government. Okay, and we can also get grants from private individuals as well. So I would like to see a staff person, maybe two even if necessary. I don't know how big that job will require, but I do know this, it's needed, and I'm not saying that we're not looking currently for ways to do that, but in order, it can't be a part-time job.
I want to shift gears and go to law enforcement. That's an area that I think you have some great experience in. The majority of the county budget is dedicated to first responders, law enforcement, and judicial process. If you look at the budget, the lion's share is in those three categories. Do you see any crime prevention measures that could be implemented to potentially relieve some of the budgetary burden in terms of our current crime rate and our current crime statistics?
Well, right now, our budget is designed to get the manpower we need, but the budget has to be revamped and there has to be a plan in place. And let me explain that. I spent most of my life both in the military and in law enforcement. In order to head that off, you can't be reactive. You got to be proactive. You have to create a unit that has the capability of sending agents infiltrating, whether it's the cartels or whether it's the drug trafficking or human trafficking rings. You have to find, because this is the down and dirty part of the work and the dangerous part of the work, but you have to have people who are skillful enough to blend in, convince those entities that, you know, that they're working for them, but at the same time they are agents that are providing the necessary intel that we need to set up a plan and then interdict the action. There are other counties that have a task force. Tom Green County does not have a task force. One of the things that I would really move quickly on is creating, meeting with DEA, state police, our county sheriff's department, San Angelo police. I would meet with representatives of each entity and say, listen, this is what we need to do. Here are the stats. The numbers are increasing. Most people aren't even aware of the threat and the danger level that's around them. And I can just tell you, we're privy to some of that information. So we need to be proactive, but it has to be done in a way where the budget can afford to get all of this, the manpower, the supplies, the equipment we have. We have drones around here that we can easily implement. But again, aerial surveillance, infrared surveillance is not enough. We need to have people on the ground who are capable of doing the most dangerous part of that work. And so we need to have a budget that would compensate those folks. We need to have a protection plan in place to extricate them out of a dangerous situation should things get bad. And I think our budget needs to be revamped so that if we're spending, since we had a surplus, by the way, since we're spending the amount of money annually, we need to divert some of that funding to create this unit that would offset the crime that's increasing in Tom Green County.
Are there any particular economic development areas that you would see as being particularly fruitful to explore in terms of our economic development planning for Tom Green County? Is there any particular industries, entities, or anything that you have a particular interest in or a particular knowledge of?
Absolutely. Years ago I wasn't here then, but I heard that we had a amusement park here, Nesser Amusements or something like that. Now we don't have that anymore. I don't know why it disappeared, but okay, let's look at that for a moment. I'm interested in bringing in family-friendly entertainment venues into Tom Green County, and especially along this Concho River. This river is a beautiful resource that can be built upon, and we're not doing it. And I'm kind of disappointed in that because every city that's got something attractive like this, that's a magnet for development. So I would like to see another amusement park come here that doesn't cost as much as the amusement park when the rodeo comes in. I'm sorry, but that amusement park was astronomically ridiculous as far as the prices were concerned. But however, look at what it did. It attracted thousands of people who were willing to pay that much money to go to that amusement park. What does that tell you? People from all over the area, not as far as Menard, Ballinger, you name it, all the little towns around here, they came into San Angelo because the rodeo was here, which is beautiful, but that's only here temporarily. It's only here for what, a few weeks, 2-3 weeks? While they're here, the fair is here. And people came, including myself. I can't believe I paid that much money. But people want to have fun. They want to have something nice to go to. And they don't want to have to go all the way to San Antonio or to Dallas or some other place to enjoy themselves. San Angelo is ripe. When I tell you San Angelo is ripe for the construction and the building up of entertainment here, hotels, more restaurants, fun things, skate rink, you name it. This place is right. We could have rides on the Concho River. I haven't seen any boats going down the Concho River. Have you? Okay. Well, we need to develop that. We've got the groundwork already laid. All we got to do is build on top of it. And I understand that there are people who love San Angelo because it's a small town. We don't have a lot of traffic. Okay, I get that, and I'm kind One of the reasons I live here is because of that. But we can't afford to be a two-horse town.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And that kind of leads me to a different question, and it's one kind of where are we going, and what are some impacts that we're going to see through not one but two interstate highways coming into Tom Green County and crossing here to St. Angelo in the next 20 years. What do you see as both the challenges and the opportunities associated with those projects from the county standpoint?
I think it's marvelous that we are going to finally get connected through an interstate system. Caution. We don't want to make the same mistake that was done when 67 was built and it cut off a community and divided a community and caused some of the businesses in that community to be utterly destroyed. We have to look at a sensible way of building the interstate. It's necessary because, as you know, I'm a Star Trek fan, so the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. but minimal invasion, destruction of communities is done. And I really don't think that was really done seriously based on the history that I've discovered. But this time, we've got people who have the understanding, the knowledge, and the wisdom to know how to do this in a way that will be beneficial to most of the people in the community. As you know, with an interstate, we're cut off. We're by ourselves out here in West Texas. The cost of goods and supplies is astronomical, partly because of the difficulty in transporting those services and those goods into San Angelo. With an interstate, faster, quicker, easier, prices should start dropping down. So it's going to be beneficial. The cost of home construction in San Angelo is, to me, is astronomical. If you compare the real estate market here, and I love real estate because I'm an investor too, but if you compare the prices of real estate in San Angelo per square footage with what's down in Dallas, you can get a mansion for what you pay for a house here, half the size. So that's ludicrous to me.
Okay, well that's a good segue to my next question, because housing is a big important part of what we're looking at here. We have around a 3% unemployment rate right now, so in order to grow our economy, we have to grow our workforce. In order to grow our workforce, we have to have more affordable housing options, both for rental and for purchase. It's a city issue, it's a county issue, it's a state issue, but as county judge, as leader of the Commissioner's Court, what do you see as the role of the county in terms of encouragement of housing projects to provide affordable housing options to our workforce?
What I've seen, Walt, is that most cities within counties are the catalyst entities that go and approach, whether it's HUD or whoever, for affordable housing. I propose that we reverse that. Don't depend on San Angelo to be the catalyst for getting affordable housing. The county should do that. And obviously the county is bigger than any one city, so that's where the partnerships need to start. And that's where we need to work with our economic development teams. That's where we need to work with developers. That's where we need to work with HUD. That's where we need to work with the small business entities. And let's get this ball rolling. It's not rocket science to figure out what needs to be done. It's just a willingness to break outside the box and say, let's do something a little bit different that's going to benefit everybody.
I like that a lot. So would you be in favor of a collaborative, the development of a collaborative comprehensive plan that includes inputs from city, county, and key entities like Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development, the ISDs, and all the other entities I've talked about?
Absolutely. That'd be ludicrous. You'd be an idiot not to want to work with. I just said that we need to work together. Well, here's a classic example of what we need to do to work together. let's stop talking, let's start planning and then doing something. I'm an action guy. I don't like to sit and talk for 6 months over one issue. Let's find out the pros and cons of getting it done. Let's get it done, set a date, get the materials, get the people in place. Let's get it done.
I'm very happy to hear you say that. As Chamber of Commerce, we do have concerns that we do have big changes coming that will be positive if we plan appropriately, could be negative if we don't. So we really need forward thinkers in office that help get that kind of vision put on paper and the paper put into action. So I appreciate that answer very, very much. Speaking of workforce, as I said before, 3% unemployment or so. Workforce participation is not quite where it was prior to COVID, but we're getting back our workforce participation again. But one of the biggest hindrances we have in terms of bringing companies here is qualified workers to staff those businesses as they come to town. What do you see as the county's role, if any, in terms of workforce development?
Again, those partnerships, we need to now talk with our educational team members. We have Howard College, we have ASU, we have different unions, whether plumbers or electrical, whatever, and we got an expert sitting right here that knows what I'm talking about. The county could be a catalyst for bringing those entities together. One of the things that we have, without a good education, you're going to, I'm sorry, but you just need to have an education. You need to be trained in some type of skill set, whether it's plumbing. Everybody's not going to get a doctorate degree from college, but you can get educated. There are different ways of getting educated. Education comes in many different packages. And so we have a master electrician right here who's working. Okay, well, good. Okay, well, you guys know what I'm talking about then. That you guys could come together, and we could go to Howard College, which you're doing right now. All of you. Oh, okay, good. Well, see, I didn't even know all that, but that.
Well, this is one of those things that will surprise you.
Yeah, well, that means I'm on the right track if they're already doing it. So that's proof of the pudding. But coming together and forming a coalition, an economic and educational coalition that stamps out ignorance, stamps out unemployment, and it creates the ability for people who are underserved, undereducated, to become educated in a certain skill set that they can use in turn to contribute to the community, to society, and to themselves. And there's a certain pride factor that occurs when you know that you can go to work and using your hands to build or put together stuff, and you get paid well for it. Man, that's very rewarding. And we don't have to, again, look at the unemployment stats and say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? The stats are, the numbers are going up, and we got high in unemployment, and we need to do something. Well, we need to put together these coalitions with the various institutions of higher learning, and let's create some incentives to get the guy or the girl, whoever, to take part in that, and in turn, get off of the unemployment line.
I like that. Tom Green County, City of San Angelo, both are struggling to recruit and retain key staff members at all levels. There's a lot of vacancies, and a lot of folks are nearing retirement age, so there'll be more retirement attrition to the workforce at the county level. You mentioned earlier the county jail being grossly understaffed. As CEO of the county, what's your view on what needs to happen in order to overcome those issues in terms of staffing of key positions at the county?
If the budget will allow it, we need to first raise the entry-level pay for our sheriffs, deputies, for the correctional officers at the Tom Green County Detention Facility. We need to create incentives to retain the experienced well-performing employees. And when I say create incentives, I'm not talking about just money. A lot of people, or some people, don't leave a job because they're not satisfied with the money. It's the conditions, it's the environment. If you create an environment that's not toxic, if you create an environment that makes employees feel good about being at work, that makes people want to hang out and stay there a little longer. Then when promotional opportunities arise, those employees who perform in an outstanding way should be promoted. Again, it's all tied to how much we can do this through the budget. But if, again, we have a surplus and say, I'm a stickler, I'd rather not have a big surplus and start pouring some of that money, investing back into our workers who are doing a good job. I'm sorry, I just think that has to be done. And you won't have this problem where we have to spin our wheels going over and over and over again, training new people because the ones with the experience are gone. It's a no-brainer. You keep the people you have, keep those folks happy, create a wholesome work environment, and I believe most of them will stay with you.
Thank you very much for that. You touched on a few ideas earlier. I'd like to kind of dive a little deeper in terms of our travel and tourism industry. As you know, at the Chamber of Commerce, travel and tourism promotion is part of our organization, and it's a big part of our mission set and a big part of our economy here. As far as travel and tourism, not necessarily from the area, but from the world, any ideas on how we can make ourselves more attractive as a travel and tourism destination?
I just said it earlier.
I think you covered a lot of
I think I answered that. Why do people who live in San Angelo go to San Antonio for the weekend or for vacation? Why did they do that? You have to just ask the simple question. You've got to ask the right question. And I don't think people are asking the right question. And that question is, they have attractions. They have fun things that people like to go to and do. San Angelo and Tom Green County in particular, we have very little. Okay, we got Lake Nasworthy, which I think is great. But what are we doing with Lake Nasworthy? What are we doing with that? That's a resource. What are we doing with it? When I worked for the mayor of New Haven, Connecticut, I later tried to run and take his job, but that's okay. But when I worked for the mayor of New Haven, when it comes to urban development, when it comes to economic development, that's my baby. I love that stuff. I love to see parts of cities where it was an eyesore turn into something beautiful that attracts everybody. So if you want tourism, you want to bring in people to San Angelo, I'm sorry, but you got to have more than the railway train station there. You've got to have beautiful stuff out here. You've got to have whether it's canoeing or whether it's a tour on the boat, or what do you call that, a river tour, whatever. I mean, there are all kind of activities we could come up with. We could all brainstorm. There's plenty of people in this room right now got good ideas, I bet. And we all sit at the table and say, hey, Kate, what do you think about what we could do to attract people? See, I from day one, when I first came to San Angelo, one of the first things I thought about this city was, why am I going to San Antonio? Why don't we have cool things here to go to? We can, but it takes imagination. And here, I don't mean to talk too much, but let me give you a for instance. San Angelo's in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. We're isolated, right? We're not near, we're 4 hours, 5 hours from Dallas, 6 hours from Houston. How do I know? Because I driven them. Tearing my car up. I need an airplane. Anyway, why do we go to these cities? Because they have things that we like. All right. Now, take Las Vegas. Las Vegas, the biggest entertainment city as far as I'm concerned on the West Coast. Now, the developers, do you know the history of Las Vegas and how it came into existence? Well, think about that for a minute. I'm not advocating casinos and gambling and all of the craziness, but I am saying somebody had a really smart idea. They knew their market. They knew that military people were coming from the East Coast, coming through to the West Coast, and they needed a place to stop and have some fun, relaxation, etc. And so the powers that be came together and said, let's build a casino. Then another guy said, wait, I want to build a casino too. And the next thing you know, you got Steve Wynn, Trump, Donald Trump, and you got all kinds of folks. We know them because we've done business with them. I'm just telling you, I don't believe in I'm not an advocate of that, but what I am saying is they used an idea that caused Las Vegas to turn from a dust bowl into what it is today, a thriving entertainment mecca capital. All right? We could do something similar like that to when I say San Angelo, I really mean Tom Green County, but I'm looking at all of the different areas. You got that winery over there in Cristobal. Very nice. That's really nice. Yeah. What are we doing to connect that with tourism with the other things that we have and can bring into the county? So you have to think ahead. You can't sit here and say, well, it's status quo. This is how things have been for the last 100 years. This is how we're going to be. We're not going to change. Well, we have to if we want to grow and want to be a realistic community. And again, that helps relieve a lot of the tax pressure on our taxpayers.
Indeed, it does. We're winding down here. I really appreciate the wide range of questions we've had and your great answers. Not pulled any punches and asked you what your favorite color was or anything silly like that. I've really tried to get to the core of the issues that I'm hearing from our membership. And now I'm just going to ask you a couple kind of closing questions. One I've asked every candidate that I've ever had a forum with, and it's if elected, how much of your time you're going to spend in this job?
People ask that question. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. This is a full-time job. You have to. I am a business person. My wife will run the company. I'll run the county. But I'm going to give the county 100% of my energy, effort, and the abilities that I have to make sure that we are doing the best that we can to serve the people of Tom Green County. This is not a part-time job. Not at all.
Very good. Well, once again, I've done a lot of these, and really am impressed with how prepared you were to, again, answer questions on a very wide variety of topics, many of them fairly technical. So let's give up a great round of applause for Julie.
Thank you. Thank you all. Can I add? I want to hear from them.
Well, I'd like to give you an opportunity to give a closing, and if you'd like to take some questions from the floor, by all means, let's do that.
Okay. Well,
or we can take some questions. You can do a closing later.
I'll do the closing later. I really want to hear from people in Tom Green County. I mean, people hear from the candidates all the time. This is what I think we should do. This is, if I win the office, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, that's a bunch of hogwash. No candidate can do anything without partnerships and without the support of those who work within the county. That's rule number one. So I won't make any promises. I'll tell you I do my best. I love the Lord. I love my community. I love my family. I love you guys. And I have no desire to be a politician, none whatsoever. I know that sounds idiotic. I'm a servant, always have been. And I believe that I can do some things that will be innovative for Tom Green County. I'm a thinker who thinks outside the box, and I'm a person who hates to be told what can't be done. Okay? I'm a man of faith, and I love God and I love my community, so I'm going to do my best to serve this community until my time is over. With that said, I want to hear from y'all. Y'all hear about me all the time. I want to hear from y'all. What's important to y'all? What's on your mind? Yes, sir.
So I know with the electric vehicles coming in and all that, and the federal funds coming. And just in Tom Green County, according to the DMV about a week ago, I believe there's about 182, 185 electrical vehicles registered, which kind of surprised me. I didn't realize that there was that many. But looking at the TxDOT plan to try to bring these charging stations in and all that, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings on it? Because looking at it, it does seem that this area is kind of going to be on the back burner. And just with the interstates coming through and all that, and with the number of EV cars and vehicles coming on, is this something that you would be for to try to bring these charging stations in? Or, I know it's kind of, I don't want to say a controversial subject, but it does seem that we are getting that way, and especially being in an oil and gas industry town. What are your thoughts on that, and we're trying to push the charging stations and the EV vehicles?
Well, you just stated the ground rule of why it's a controversy. Texas is an oil and gas state. Anybody that doesn't know that, they must be living under a rock. Well, the other flip side of that coin is this. Look at what's happening between Vladimir Putin and Ukraine, and now affecting Europe with the withholding of grain. The United States gets the majority of its oil from Saudi Arabia. And we get the majority of our oil from the Mideast. Having been in national security, and I have had this conversation with a lot of people at the White House, at the Conference of Governors, even locally with other mayors. I'm going to tell you something. America has got to change its dependence from foreign oil. If we keep going the way we're going, these other countries, which are, by the way, they're taking our money and reinvesting in property in America, and America is becoming more and more non-American. Look how much China, if y'all do a fact check, find out how much China has invested, find out how much Saudi Arabia has invested in this nation and owns property in this nation. Okay? Now, this is a whole national security issue. Okay? I believe we need to find alternative forms of energy. And I would support bringing in these charging stations for that reason. However, we cannot ignore our own people either. There has to be a balance, okay? And there has to be some, whether it comes in the form of subsidies, whether it comes in the form of some kind of incentive from the federal government or from the U.S. Energy Department, there has to be a mechanism in place that offsets any losses that our oil and gas people would suffer as a result of the change of the energy structure in Texas as well as the rest of the nation. I will always look at the defense of America before I look at the convenience of our people. Because if we don't defend our country, and I'm not talking about sending Marines and Air Force and all the military people, there are other things that affect the defense of this nation, and that certainly is one of them. And I don't want to be held hostage by a foreign entity because we're so dependent on the petroleum from those countries. Any person with a half a brain can figure this out. So they're holding us hostage, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the whole game. They play this all the time. We deal with, when I was in Vietnam, I thought we were going there to fight for the freedom of the South Vietnamese. When I went to Vietnam, I was 18 years old. I didn't understand life back then the way I do now. But in retrospect, when I went there, I was amazed that I saw oil refinery tanks in operations in Vietnam. Shell, Exxon, Mobil, those guys. So we were there to protect American interests in a foreign government, in a foreign country. We weren't there for the South Vietnamese. We were there to keep the North Vietnamese and the communists from taking those oil fields. That's why we were there. And what we need to do today is stop the dependence we have on foreign oil. We need to stop it. Oh, and I know this doesn't have anything to do with that, but I'm going to say this because this is another pet peeve of mine, being in Homeland Security. Our southern border needs to be shut down. Okay? It is a national security risk to have millions of migrants that you don't know anything about, people who are being utilized, and I'm telling you this because I know it is for a fact, not guesswork, being utilized by the cartel, disguised as immigrants fleeing persecution, and they're mules bringing drugs into this country. Then, once they come into the country, according to the Office of Management and Budget, I studied that. I wanted to know how much money is the U.S. government spending on the detention centers for the migrants, especially migrant children. They are spending $64 million, not a year, not a month, a week. $64 million a week. They're going to bankrupt this country. Keep doing that. When instead, take that $64 million that they're spending, shut down the borders, close down the detention centers, hire more judges and more immigration lawyers, and widen the bottleneck so that more people can be processed legally into this country. I'm sympathetic to people that are suffering. Yes, I am. But I don't believe that we should just blindly open the gate. Anybody, okay, y'all suffering, come on in. No. I'm appalled at the policies of the Biden administration. I like Joe Biden. I have nothing against him as a person. I respect our president because the Bible tells us to give honor to whom honor is due. But beyond that, as a Christian, we're to pray for him. Okay? And I'm doing that. I'm praying. I hope one of these days he ought to answer my prayer. But I'm praying that he comes to his senses when it comes to what's happening on that border and the impact of it on the cities that are around there. This game of sending migrants on buses and planes to all over the United States, that's not solving the problem. That's spreading the problem. Okay, I'm sorry, I just got on a tangent there, but
from charging stations in Angelo, but it's all good information.
Well, it all affects us.
It does indeed. Yeah, it does.
Because guess what? Yeah. The routes that the human traffickers and the drug dealers are using, they're coming through Tom Green County.
Any other questions for the candidate this evening?
Yes, ma'am.
You touched a little bit on Howard College and ASU, the students there. What ideas do you have to keep our graduates here? So, like, as soon as they graduate.
Good point.
As soon as they graduate,
they're gone.
They're out of here. So, any ideas of what the county could do to try to keep some of those graduates here?
Yes. What are young people interested in? So you got to find out what is it attraction. Why do they want to go to the big cities? Same question I asked about entertainment. I'll ask it about young people. See, you've got to know the people you're dealing with. And you can't know them if you don't invest time in them. Before they become seniors, that question should be asked at their sophomore stage. What are you interested in? What are you, what's like and why? Now, once you did that survey and you find out, you start collecting the data, that'll tell you what you need to do and what the city and the county needs to do to bring about a change that causes young people to be attracted here. San Angelo is more of a city where, you know, you're either retired or you're just somebody who just don't want to live, and you're not a person who has to go out and go to. I'm not a nightclub guy. That don't faze me. I passed that stage a long time ago. I used to, but I don't do that no more. Oh yeah, I did. I used to do the funky chicken and all that. But all right, but but what do young people? Well, I was once young, you know. I'm almost an old guy, but I'm not so old that I don't know how to relate and do an assessment of our young people. That's what you got to do. Talk to them, listen to them. And especially young people who have a lot on the ball, who have a talent and skill. Where can they go to use that skill? Can they do it in San Angelo? You know, they're looking at the money. Money's important. They're looking at money. I mean, you go to New York City, you can make $300,000 if you put your head to it. Don't have to think about it. You can't do that in San Angelo. There's some rare exceptions, but most people are not going to have that kind of salary. So we have to find out what are the interests of young people, and what do we need to do to retain them? And I can tell you right now what we need to do. One, we need to have affordable housing. Bing. I'm going to tell you that right now. See, everything is connected. It's interconnected. Jobs, affordable housing, and entertainment, fun for young people. You do that, you'll keep your young people.
Any further questions for the candidate this evening? We put him through a lot of paces.
I love it. Listen, this is cool to me.
So, going back to the oil field, I used to work in oil field a long time ago. So you're saying that you support fracking?
Now explain. I think I know what fracking is.
You support drilling and fracking of oil?
And taking it out of the ground. Of course I do. You know why? I mean, come on. We're in Texas. This is the fracking capital of the country. Now, I do believe that we need to have ways to keep energy clean and safe. And if that helps us lessen our dependence on foreign oil, I'm all for that. Okay? I'm not saying erase the oil and gas people. No, by no stretch of the imagination. That would be wrong. Y'all throw me out of Texas if I said that. We've had electric cars since 1970. Now very few people know anything about that. But we've had electric cars since 1974. Okay, but they mothballed it because the oil companies didn't want that out in the market. Okay.
Any further questions for the candidate this evening? Well, I want to, again, on behalf of the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce, thank you.
Thank you so much.
For the service you give to our community, not only by running for county judge, which is a tough job, and you've done it with incredible energy and incredible ingenuity, but the great service you give in general to our community. We're very grateful.
Thank you so much, sir.
And the service you give to the chamber is also very, very important to us. I appreciate you all coming out this evening and supporting the process. Now, it's up to us as participants in the electoral process here in Tom Green County to deliver numbers in terms of voter participation that we can be proud of. I like to tell a little story about my wife, who you know back there. She's an Italian national. She's working on her citizenship soon. She'll be a voter as well.
Yay!
But she was concerned about an outcome of an election in Italy that was surprising in terms of the outcome. And she said, well, you know, it really is not reflective of the electorate because only about 68% of the people voted. And I said, 68% is a low turnout in Italy? I mean, we'd be delighted if we could get 50% here in Tom Green County. We're the greatest democracy on the planet. So, you know, we got to do better in terms of getting the vote out. And I don't, like I said, the Chamber of Commerce, we're not blue, we're not red. Voting is both a right and a responsibility for all the citizens. So work with us to get the word out and make sure we have numbers this cycle that we can all be proud of in terms of participation. That's something we all can do, and it's important. Supporting this guy in this process is important as well. So thank you all again for coming this evening. And Chamber of Commerce is here for you all always to serve you and to make sure that your life here in Tom Green County is as good as it can be. So,
well, thank you.
Let's give it up one more time for the candidate.
Thank you.